Hey friend, I'm Danielle Damrell, and I am so grateful that you're listening to the Created Worthy podcast. This show is all about honoring the life stories of women from different ages, beliefs, backgrounds, and experiences. Everyone's got a story, and instead of getting stuck in the trap of unworthiness, this is a safe place for stories to be shared. On this show, we chat about the transformative power of creative processing too, and how we can utilize our God-given creativity with intention to heal, grow, find joy, create simplicity in the midst of our chaotic lives. So pull up a seat at our table because we are all created worthy. Hello, welcome back to the Created Worthy podcast. Today, I am joined by another worthy warrior, Rachel Baker. Rachel D. Baker is a speaker, coach, and author for women who are overwhelmed by doing all the things for everyone else. Her words and resources help women reclaim time for themselves guilt-free while still getting things done. She hosts a weekly podcast, Create Some Breathing Room, for all of these amazing women. She loves being able to share encouragement, faith, and practical advice through solo episodes and guest interviews. Rachel is also a wife, a special needs mom, a coffee addict, ditto, enneagram 2, wing 3, and bookaholic. Her own life experiences have created a special place in her heart for fellow moms, chronic pain warriors, and women with ADHD. You are in the right spot. Rachel and I met at Rebecca George's Go Getter Getaway just a few months, just over a month ago, I think, in Tennessee. And we got to spend some beautiful time together in the Tennessee mountains and just were able to connect and talk about our journeys and our relationships with the Lord. For me, it was such a wonderful time of soul rest. And so, yeah, we met there, and I have been so excited to have her on this podcast ever since. So, my friend, thank you so much for joining us on the Created Worthy podcast. I can't wait to hear even more about your real life story.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm excited to be here. I loved that retreat so much. It's exactly what you said, the soul rest. I just needed to be in a place with other women who get it, who are on a similar journey, who have a passion for sharing God, sharing their stories, all of that, and supporting and encouraging others. And it was exactly what I needed, but in a bunch of ways I didn't know I needed it.
Oh, yeah.
It was amazing. And I love, we were able to connect. Anytime I meet another creator or a woman in ministry with ADHD, I'm like, yes, girl.
I get you. I understand.
Yes.
Yes, me too. I get so pumped because I'm like, oh, so you can ride my train of conversation. Like, we're going, buckle up, friends. Like, anytime I have a conversation with someone, thankfully now Created Worthy has a script, or not a script, but an outline. So I can stay on topic and hit all the things. But there were some episodes in the beginning where I was like, oh, this is my ADHD on full display.
Yeah.
I'm like, buckle up, friend.
Show you what it's like in my brain. Yeah, no, I have to definitely have topics lined out first before I record my episodes. The solo episodes are pretty well scripted. I don't like to read the episodes, but I definitely need something to keep me on track. So I feel that deeply.
Yes. Well, again, thank you so much for being here. I would love for you to just start with, honestly, wherever you kind of feel called to start in your story. My only prerequisite for being on the show is that you have to feel called to share a portion of your story. So I'm going to hand it over to you and just let it take us back to one, where are you from? Where do you live currently? And then if you want to take us through your childhood or jump in wherever you feel called, the floor is yours, my friend.
All right. Well, thanks. There's a lot, there's a lot we could unpack. I am 40 now, so coming up on 41 soon. So there's a lot to unpack. I do currently live in Central Arkansas. I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee, though. So going from big city Memphis to tiny town in Arkansas little bit of culture shock.
Mm-hmm.
But now I have been here since I came to college back in '01, and I love it. It's the natural state. We've got lots of good places for hiking and camping, and I love all of that. So it's nice to go back and visit the big city. My family's still all there, but I really do enjoy kind of our small town life here. So that's where I am, where I'm from.
Yeah.
There are a lot of different aspects of my story that we could speak into, but the one that's really been on my heart to share here, for whatever reason, with you and your listeners, is kind of my health stuff. I'm in a season right now where I really am stepping back quite a bit, trying to create some more breathing room for myself. I preach it, so I got to do it.
Got it.
And I do that to an extent, but I'm realizing I do have a lot more healing that needs to happen physically, mentally, emotionally. It's all there. And so I'm kind of stepping back and working towards a sabbatical time where there are a lot of resources I've put out there for my ladies. They can still have that support, but I got to lead by example.
Yeah.
And it took me a really long time to get to that point where I could do that comfortably.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned in my bio the Enneagram 2 with
the helper. Yeah.
Girl,
And
help
achiever
me help
wing.
you. I want to help the world. That has not always been a strength. A lot of people hear the 2. It's like, oh, everybody wants to be a 2. Everybody wants to be a helper. That's the good heart. Okay. But also, like, to my own detriment. Let's talk about codependency for a hot second.
Yes. I have so many people in my life who are 2s and 8s, just a ton of 2s and 8s in my life.
Yeah.
And all of the 2s in my life are like incredible human beings. I love them. I love them so much. But also they struggle so much internally with that, like, wait, I have to care for myself because it's so not natural. Like you just want to they want to care and serve other people, like you said, to your detriment. So
yeah. Boundaries. What are boundaries? What?
Right. And like, how do you actually, we all know these words like boundaries, but what it actually means to implement these words and to be actionable, that's kind of a weird way of putting it, but like be actionable with them is totally a different thing than just knowing them. So before we jump too far ahead, I would love for you to take me back to the start of your health journey. Has chronic illness been something that you have dealt with for your entire life? Or when did you know that this was going to be a huge part of your story?
That is a great question. I was actually really healthy, like as a kid, as a teen. It seems to have started in high school. I got mono and I was down for the count for a good long
rough
while.
One. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, then I had it again in college.
Oh,
and I think,
are you serious?
I think it just like zapped my immune system, confused I don't know. They say Epstein-Barr is a beast, and that's at the root of mono. And having it twice, I really started having a lot of crazy autoimmune issues. It's like my body just started attacking itself. And so it was early 20s when I really started having weird, random stuff. I'd go into the doctors with one thing and they're like, well, that's not normal. Or I'd have a crazy reaction to a medicine. That's a 1 in a million. I'm like, I just need you to put that on my chart. Like if it's a 1 in a million, that's now my new middle name. And it's just kind of, that's been the case ever since. I would have ovarian cysts that ruptured. Well, this is the medicine that's supposed to help with that. Oh, it actually made it worse. Maybe we shouldn't do that. And just things like that all the time. I have degenerative discs in my neck. And so I was 5 months pregnant with my first kiddo in 2008 and had to have neck surgery. I was losing the use of my arms and my hands, couldn't grip the steering wheel to drive. And they basically said, you can wait until she's born and then have surgery, but not be able to take care of her for the first 6 weeks of her life. Or you can have the surgery while you're pregnant and then get better and be able to care for her when she's born. I didn't really feel like there was a choice there.
Yeah. So, where's the choice in that?
Yeah. So I had the surgery, and that was a whole thing. My first marriage was not awesome because a lot of, the codependency, he had clinical depression. It was just kind of a hot, toxic mess that we created.
Yeah.
And so healing through that was difficult. There was just a lot. And then in 2011, I had my second kiddo in January. And then in October of that year, I broke my arm killing a bug. And
what?
Right? That's what I said. It was like that. It shouldn't hurt that bad when you hit the floor with a shoe.
Yeah.
But apparently I had a giant cell bone tumor in my right humerus. And when the shoe hit the floor, it literally cracked my bone in my right arm. And that's how they found me. We didn't know I had the tumor. So I had a 3-year-old, I had like a 9-month-old, and I had a bone tumor.
So can you, I am unfamiliar with what a giant cell bone tumor is. Is that cancerous?
This one was not. Thankfully, It was benign. They were able to get it all out. I did have to go to oncology for the next 5 to 6 years, just check on the status. If it does become malignant, can spread into your lungs. So we were always having to do chest x-rays. But at this point, they've basically said, you're in the clear. I know. Every time I would walk to the oncology clinic, just like heading towards those doors, I can do all things through Christ who gives me strength. I'm just like, you have to have something in your mind
about trust.
Yeah. Oh, man. So, just lots of random things like that over the years that
just one health issue after another. So how have you navigated?
It's been a ride. Yeah. It's been quite a ride. So for that season, dealing with the bone tumor, I had the surgery, I was in the sling, lots of Percocet, just, lots of pain.
Surviving.
I couldn't feed my baby a bottle. I couldn't get my baby in and out of the crib or change his diaper. I have always said, I don't know how people go through seasons like that without church. I don't know how people do hard things like that. I could not have done it without church family and my, personal family. We had ladies from our church taking shifts in our house. One would come for a few hours in the morning and another would switch out with her midday, and they were bringing us meals and all these things because I just literally couldn't do anything, or I would be in bed. And so that was very humbling, I will say, because I'm very much I got this, I can do it, get out of the way. I can take care of business. And I can look back now.
The wing 3.
That's my wing 3. I got this. But I can look back now and see throughout a lot of these situations where God has kind of, gently, little pat on the head, little Rachel. Oh, that's cute. You just need to sit down a minute, honey. Like, let's remember who actually has got this. And I need that. I don't like it in the moment, but I do need that reminder that just like walking into the oncology building, right? Like, I can do all things through Christ. I can do all things with God. It makes me insane when people say God will never give you more than you can handle. Number one, false. Number two, it's completely unscriptural. That you can read in the New Testament, we were burdened beyond what we were able to bear, like, because God. What else would we need God for if we could handle it all? Right. So I obviously need that reminder on repeat. And
I really, I would love to pause there and just talk about that. Sorry. It took me a second to process it, but, I love that you actually bring up the context of that scripture, because that's a memory verse that I learned via song in school. And Rachel, can you actually read me the scripture that comes from?
I can. So it's from 2 Corinthians chapter 1, verse 8. He says, we don't want you to be uninformed, brothers and sisters, about the troubles we experienced in the province of Asia. We were under great pressure, far beyond our ability to endure, so that we despaired of life itself. Like, that doesn't sound like, I got this. Like, we despaired for life itself.
Yeah.
And I've had, I know you have, I've had that feeling. Like, why? This is too hard. It's too heavy. It's too much. I cannot even, right? As teen would say.
Yes. And I think that when we hear that, and then there's the verse in 1 Corinthians 2, where it says, we will not be tempted beyond what we can bear. What I think, and I am no theologian, and I always have to preface this whenever I talk about the word of God. But what I think the context of that is actually pointing to our need for God, right?
Yeah.
Like,
so
it's because
we
don't
early.
have enough. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah. So I stopped a little early, but verse 9, it says, indeed, we felt we had received the sentence of death, but this happened that we might not rely on ourselves, but on God, who raises the dead. He has delivered us from such a deadly peril, and he will deliver us again. And he just goes on. That's where our hope is. That's who takes care of us. That's scripture, not God won't give you more than you can bear.
Right. And I think that when he does give us more than we can bear, because he does, it's in that his, like you alluded to in the beginning, it's in us not being able to bear all of the weight of it on our own, that we're actually able to experience the power and strength of the Lord, right? Like, we are equipped with what he gives us, but we're equipped through him.
Right. And I was having this conversation with somebody not too long ago, and we were looking at that verse and talking about this, and the sense that it's not even necessarily that God is giving you all these heavy, hard things, but we were talking about parenting in this sense. And he's not the helicopter parent that like hovers over and swoops in and clears out all the hard stuff either. When our kids are little, they need us to come in and help sometimes, but also they kind of have to learn from their own choices. And that's really, really hard, but they know that we're there if they need to call on us. And I think it's that way, we go through the hard things and he sees that it's happening, but he doesn't have to swoop in all the time. And we do need to have that sense of, hey, I kind of need some help. I can't do this by myself, to call on him. And then him coming through and helping just glorifies him. Like,
exactly.
That's my prayer now in any of the hard things. And there are more hard, like we got to 2011, right? We're past that now.
We've still, we're going to get back there.
Yeah. But in all these things now, my prayer is like, this is a hard and horrible thing, and I hate it so much. Just be glorified, whatever it is. I want God to be glorified through it.
So take us now back to 2011. You had just come or went through that surgery, right, for your arm. Then what?
Yeah. So the whole next year was really healing from the surgery, physical therapy, getting all of that back. So it never fully goes back to normal, right? Muscles have been torn open and sewn back together. And so my body still carries those scars, the neck surgery and the shoulder surgery. I went through divorce. My first husband left. It was me and the 2 kids. He left in the beginning of 2015. And so I single mommed it and worked 4 jobs to pay bills, and did that for, I guess, about a year and a half. And very quickly and unexpectedly, I was remarried in the middle of 2016. And that's a whole other story of God's redeeming love. That's a whole.
Yes. I've been thinking about doing a relationship series next season for Created Worthy, where we just talk about marriage and relationships.
It's a whole thing.
So yeah, I'm going to have you back when we do the relationship series, and I cannot wait to hear your redemption story, your redeeming love story. That's maybe what we'll call it. Cause I love that book.
It's a wild, unexpected thing I never anticipated. So very thankful for that. And my kiddos were 4 and 6 when we married. And so I guess it was just a few months after we were married in 2016, I started having new weird health issues. I would be walking along doing my thing, and suddenly my legs would just give out from under me. I just basically was losing the ability to walk. It went on for 2.5 to 3 years. I was within that time period, they diagnosed me with an autoimmune disease called myasthenia gravis. Basically, it's autoimmune, neurological. Your muscles would just get weak and give out. And
so it's rooted in your brain.
Yes.
Like signals from your brain.
Yes.
Wow.
There's a lot of sciencey words, but basically your brain and your muscles are not communicating well. And you might start the day okay, but by the end of the day, you've got nothing left in the tank. And they treated me for that for over a year. I was taking medication for it. Just having it was like having seizures. My muscles would twitch a lot, but I was completely coherent the whole time. So it wasn't seizures. There was just a lot of weird stuff. So I went, I guess it was about 3 years in and out of a wheelchair or using a walker. I was still teaching 2016, 17, that school year. I taught 3rd grade. And by the end of the year, it was like, this is not feasible. I'm teaching from a wheelchair. This is not sustainable for what I was doing. So I started teaching online, before it was cool, pre-pandemic. It's 2017.
Yeah. You're a trendsetter.
Yeah, right. I mean, you still got to pay bills, and I'm a teacher, and there were opportunities for that. Mm-hmm. So I did that while we still tried to get everything sorted. And 2018, that summer, we were just so frustrated with it all. We decided to go out of state. There was a specialist in Texas that they were like, go see her. She'll get you sorted. We went and saw her, and she did all her tests, and she says, you don't have myasthenia gravis. You need to go back and see your neck doctor again and see if there's anything going on there. So we did. And they discovered my neck had never fully consolidated and healed from that first fusion when I was pregnant. So I'd basically been walking around for 10 years with an unstable neck. My husband's favorite thing to tell people is that I literally had screws loose. And then the doctor was like, yes, that is accurate. And they laughed about it. And I was like, rude.
Yeah. You're like, this is no joking matter.
Right? This is not a joke. But if you aren't laughing, you're crying. So we laugh when we can.
Yes.
So I had another neck surgery. It was same site, but they went in from the back instead of the front this time. And
wow,
that was December of 2018. And I regained the ability to walk. They didn't know if it would help, but they knew that it needed to be stabilized. So we're like, we'll give it a shot and see if it helps. It did. I had to rebuild all those muscles in my legs.
Right.
But it did help. And then December of 2019, I had to have a second shoulder surgery. I had a labral tear and a ton of scar tissue and epic pain. Took care of that. I think the next major surgery was February of 22. I had a lot of other female health issues and had to have a full hysterectomy.
Yeah.
And I was 38, almost 39 at that point.
Yeah.
And they were like, normally we would not do this, but you're kind of weird. So
you're like, that's exactly
like, whatever. I don't even care.
Hear. Yeah.
Take it all.
If it gets rid of the pain and got to take care of the health.
Well, and for me, it was just the crazy hormones of it all. I would feel just rage, just epic rage. I was so angry, but I knew I had no reason to feel angry, but I couldn't not feel angry.
Yeah.
I felt like a flippin' crazy person.
Hormones can do crazy things.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So that was the last major surgery. My latest insanity is just more autoimmune stuff. Sjogren's, rheumatoid arthritis. We're getting it sorted. I'm kind of in a season right now where I'm having to step back a little bit and practice what I preach to all my ladies over on Create Some Breathing Room. Like, I do create some breathing room, but right now I need a little more. I need to step back and allow that additional time to focus on healing of my own. Some of it is the physical.
That you are able to, that you are doing this, even though you don't want to do this, you're stepping back. You're doing what you need to do to honor the body that God has given you, and that like he is going and already is actively blessing you for just your steps of obedience.
Like, I appreciate you saying that.
It is not an easy decision. And I do want to go back and I want to hear a little bit about your journey into entrepreneurship, because I know now you have a ministry and you are speaking and you're writing. And although you are about to take somewhat of a sabbatical, that doesn't mean that your work stops in the heavenly realms, right? Like your kingdom work is always going, even if you are physically resting in a season. Yes. You've already built something that is going to continue to serve people. I assume your podcast is still going to be available. So there's a lot of different things in the journey, the entrepreneurship journey and the ministry journey that you've already built that the Lord is going to continue to use. So can you take us back and tell me a little bit about starting this? Like, at what point did you go from being a teacher to starting a ministry?
Yeah, it's a wild ride looking back at it. Because definitely not anything I intended to do. You know, I went to school, I got my bachelor's, I got my master's. I was in early childhood special ed and I loved it. You know, I tell people, like, you've got your people. Even though, you know, you love everybody and you love there are just your people. And I think, you know, moms are my people. Those who deal with chronic illness are my people. But before even all of that, I just love working with the babies, the littles, especially those with special needs. So now that I have kids who are teenagers, I'm like, we are way outside my area of expertise. I don't know what I'm doing anymore.
Yeah.
So those were my people. But when I came home with the crazy health stuff and still had to make money and found online teaching, that just kind of started my mind in the direction of, I can make money on my schedule, working when I am able. And what does it look like to work and serve and make money and also take care of my physical body and be the best wife and mom and friend that I can be? So I've come to the point, I think, where I don't think it's balance. I don't think there's a balance. I think there's a sense of peace. There's a level of comfort. And I wanted more of that. I wanted to figure out what that could look like. And so I did the online teaching for about 4 years. But I would say the end of 2019, beginning of 2020 was when I really started to go, I could do something with this. I can help other moms who need to work from home or other people with chronic health issues who need to make money. And so I took a course or two, just learning how to coach better, how to serve others who wanted to make money, but needed to be home. And online teaching was how I knew to do that. I had the degrees. I knew how to do curriculum development. And so it just kind of evolved into that business to start out. It was, how can I help you take what you love and know and are passionate about, oh, you're an accountant, but you want to work from home and teach kids online. What about a class on budgeting? What could that look like? And just the logistics of it. And so I loved it so much because you could just see people get really excited about spending time in what they were passionate about, their own God-given strengths, right? And then being able to serve others in that way. It was literally the best. Learning how to coach others and the joy that did bring me, and being able to I love pulling those pieces out of people. Like, what is it that you love? What is it that lights you up? What is it that you're really good at that other people go, how do you do that thing? But it's just so easy. Right. People don't realize that they have those things in them, and those are their God-given strengths and skills and passions, and to utilize those to teach and serve others is so rewarding, and then to make money at it. But as I was going and coaching, teaching, however we're calling it in that way, I began to really hear a lot more from my clients that they were making progress. They'd made the classes, they were getting students, but now I don't know how to manage my time. I don't know how to make it all fit. Where do I put all these classes? And I need to make dinner, and I've got kids, and we have all these hats. And so at the time I was undiagnosed ADHD. I didn't know my whole life was living the ADHD life. I got my diagnosis right before I turned 40. So about a year ago.
Wow.
And and it was like, oh, honey, that's cute that you like, do I have ADHD? It's like, it's pretty severe, like 98th percentile. You're up there.
They're like, so how many businesses do you have?
Right. Yeah. And so I just naturally have had to create my own systems and processes and over time of how to manage my own time, how to make things happen and be intentional. And so I found a system I liked. I personally use Asana online. It's my favorite. And so I started teaching how to use that. And then the question was, well, can you just set it up for me? Can I just give you all my information and you'll do it? So then I was providing that as a service, like a VIP week. Give me all your stuff. I'll create the system with training videos, and then you run and live your best life. And that was awesome, just because people were, that sense of relief. Yeah. And just the mental clarity that you have a system in place that'll do recurring tasks for you. Like, that's how
Can
I
function.
I
just ask you a personal question on that front specifically?
Yes.
As a entrepreneur with ADHD, do you find that you can create systems easily for other people, but for yourself, it feels like it takes forever?
What I have noticed most about that, I can create the systems for myself, but I don't want to hit the pause button long enough and invest the time to set the foundation. That's the difference, because when I'm doing it for a client, that's literally what I'm doing. I'm setting their foundations, and then I'm teaching them how to use it. For myself, I know what it can do. But to slow down long enough to put those foundations in place, like, ain't nobody got time for that. Come on.
No. And especially if you have other people who are going to pay you to do it.
Exactly. That, I will say, that's a great segue into the next piece of my business. Because I was doing the practical logistical things, put the systems in place, live your life, but I wasn't talking about why it mattered. Why is it important? And it took forever for me to get the words for this. But I just wanted all of these precious women who are trying to do their very best with what they've got. I want them to have some room to breathe in their life, right? Like, we get stuck on this perpetual hamster wheel, and we're just going through the day. Where did the day go? Where did the week go? Who am I? My hair's on fire. And we just seriously have to stop and breathe for 2 seconds. And when we don't allow that for ourselves, when I don't allow that for myself, I'm not putting those foundational pieces in place. And some of those foundational pieces might be spending a few minutes in scripture or talking to God. One of my favorite things that I've read it was The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry by John Mark Comer, one of my favorite books. And I did a podcast episode about it, if you want to listen about it first. That book was so game-changing for me. And he talks about those things that really should be the first go-tos for us when we are stressed, when we're overwhelmed, when we're feeling hurried. Those things like scripture, time with God, prayer, rest, that's what we should go to. But those are the first things to go off of our list.
Yep.
I don't have time for that. I'm too busy, which is total garbage. It's, we're just tearing ourselves down. And so as I was working on these things for myself, figuring out what my God-given strengths and skills and passions were and who God created me to be, those things, like you said, they take time. You have to kind of sit a second and think about it and be intentional.
You have to slow down.
Especially the ADHD brain, doesn't really love that. But I think also just as a culture, it is very much the hustle vibe, right?
Yeah. And even
we're not
in the midst of anti-hustle culture, which I think we're seeing we're hearing that more, we're seeing it more. It's like even anti-hustle is still hustling. Because I think at this point we're so conditioned to a life that looks like this certain way, where our calendars are full and, whatever. Even with health appointments, like I know in my family, we have a lot of health appointments. And so even just with that alone, it's like, I think that being intentional, we'll segue into creative processing here in a minute after, but like being intentional with your time. And I'm really excited that you're bringing this up. It's so important, and it's so, not talked about in that, like, yes, we talk about anti-hustle, but we don't actually talk about what slowing down looks like,
right?
Or how to do that, or how to turn your attention back to what is most important. So this book, The Ruthless Elimination of Hurry, is that what it is? Yeah.
Yes.
And I'm excited to listen to your podcast too about it. Just sounds like it could be such a helpful resource for so many of us where we do have busy minds. And a lot of the life coaching that I do with women, I let them know up front, like I do mostly time management coaching, and I do clarity. And I tell my clients ahead of time, I'm like, part of this is going to be slowing down. We're going to pause. We're going to sit. I've got a lot of questions that you're going to need to answer on your own that are going to take some quiet and reflection. This isn't like a hurry up and go, I need clarity on this, or let's hurry up and get my time under control, because without those foundational pieces, it's not going to help. Yeah.
If you can't sit and reflect and think, and it does take that intentionality. It is hard, because especially if you are momming or, you've got a family, you are running a million different directions. And one of the things I have loved, I've also done executive assistant, virtual assistant jobs. I'm helping someone with that right now. And one of my favorite things is calendar management. Because if you are the executive director of an organization and you are supposed to have 500 meetings in the next month, I love being in charge of that calendar and saying, you do not have capacity for more than this many meetings on a day. No, I will not be able to put that on there for you. It's going to have to move. And to hold those boundaries, sometimes we need someone along with us to hold those boundaries for us.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I love being able to be that person and to say, you actually can't fit that here. Don't try to make it fit. You're going to cry real tears.
You're going to be swimming in a puddle of tears.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
That awareness and intentionality, I think, is crucial.
That is so crucial. And honestly, this is like the perfect segue into creative processing. I know I talked to you a little bit about it when we were at the retreat, but creative processing is literally just activating your creative mind to process a certain intention. And so the prompt that I recommend using is the purpose of enter your creative method, could be anything that activates your creative mind, is to process, enter your certain intention. So like, as you're talking about slowing down and clarity, I'm like, this is exactly why I think the Lord revealed creative processing to me. It was because I couldn't figure it out. I couldn't figure out how in the world I tangibly make clarity possible. How do I actually experience joy? I know that peace is available to me all the time, but how do I experience it? And at some point, the Lord was like, Danielle, it's all within you already. And it's within every single one of my children who I've created. So I ask all of my guests, like, what is your primary creative processing method? And I know that majority of them are like, I don't even know what creative processing is. I'm like, give me your answer anyway. You told me brain dumping all the things to sort and prioritize for mental clarity, which 100% is how I am too. And that's a big activity that I do with most of my life story coaching clients, is just brain dump your life story on me. And then we're going to organize that. We can start organizing it. Just get it out.
Yeah.
But I was thinking about this in terms of like, how could we, with what you do already, like, how does creative processing fit in? And so, a prompt that you could potentially use to put this into action would be, the purpose of this brain dump is to process my sabbatical. You're setting that intention with something that activates your creative mind already. So it's even more like, this is exactly what I'm going to do. And I've just like with goal setting, I think they say like you're 80% more likely to actually achieve a goal if you write it down more than 3 times. I think it's like, if you write it 1 time, it goes up. If you write it 2 times, it goes up. If you write it 3 times, it goes up.
Yep.
And with creative processing, it's very similar, except you don't need to do it 3 times. You can do it 1 time. You can set a time limit if you want or not. It doesn't really even matter. I overcomplicated it for so long. And I was like, you have to do it in this very structured and stringent way. And if you don't do it like this, then it's not positive creative processing. But what the Lord totally convicted me of that and was like, no, Danielle, you're missing the point. The point is just to use your creativity and slow down enough to set an intention.
God, if we are open and listening and trying to live in obedience, I absolutely believe and have seen that God uses the things that we struggle with most, or the things we have struggled through most. And that's just another part of his redeeming spirit, I think, is to take those hard pieces of our stories. And if we acknowledge them, acknowledge him in them, then it absolutely brings him the glory when we can turn them around and say, I had to go through the really hard, mucky valley of the shadow of death to get to where I now know and understand this thing. Let's get you there quicker and easier. I want to share this with you so that you don't have to go through all that. And I think that's another piece of his love and his mercy and his glory. And so kind of like I am, teaching and preaching about creating some breathing room in your life and pouring into yourself so that you can pour into others. I preach and teach the things that I needed to hear. I still need to hear.
Same.
I need 100%. The reminders. And so we share it so passionately because we know how important it is for us, and we are not alone.
And I think it's okay to admit that we don't have it all figured out. That was one of the most beautiful things that I felt at the retreat was just the vulnerability of being like, you know what? Like, I know I'm called to this field, but like, I really actually have no idea what I'm doing. Before we close, I want to hear where you're at now. Can you tell us just a little bit about what you're doing now? I know that you alluded to taking a sabbatical or setting yourself up to take a sabbatical. But yeah, what's going on?
Yeah. Right now, like you had mentioned, at the retreat, I was very much, I have this book I'm going to write. I had an Advent devotional that already outlined scriptures chosen. I'd written a few of them, and I was going to have that finished and ready this year. Lots of things on my plate. And my health has gotten in the way. I am in the middle of doing, some of my own trauma work for mental health. And there's just a lot of that. And so I do have a lot of resources that are already out there. And it was very hard to say, I know I said I was going to do this book and this devotional and just kidding, maybe next year, because once you put something out there like that, it's hard to step back and say, just kidding.
Mm-hmm.
But I do feel very convicted in that way, that if I'm going to tell other people that they've got to pour into themselves first, that image of the full pitcher pouring into cups, if the pitcher is empty, there's nothing to pour out. I can't continue on my ministry without filling my own. So yes, I am, stepping back a little bit with a sabbatical. There are several guest interviews that are still ready to be shared. So the podcast will continue for a bit. My time, I've got to focus on my health, my healing. There's meds management and health practices that I've got to work on. I'm also raising a 15-year-old girl and an almost 13-year-old boy who has special needs. And that's a whole thing. And I just want to be able to be here and be present for them and for my husband. So I guess I'm just really trying to lean into God right now. And live in trust and faith and hope, because I got to practice what I preach. I got to lead by example. And creating some more breathing room in my life is what that looks like right now, with the goal of coming back healthier and with even more experience and
you will,
and things to share. So I was not happy about it at first, but I have a really good sense of peace about it right now. I'm excited for it.
The way that you are stepping back, and you even showed up today to record still, even though you're like, I've been called to do this thing, that is so honorable. And also it reminds me how much practicing rest, because that's not something that we think about we needing to practice, but it actually is something that we're called to do. Like when the Lord says be still, he doesn't necessarily mean like just completely freeze up and don't speak and just be still, like physically still. He actually means like take upon you a spirit of rest.
Yes.
And those seasons are really hard to do. And so you're taking a step of obedience. And through that, the Lord is teaching people like me and reminding people like me the importance of rest and of caring for your body and listening to your body. Like, it's no surprise to him that you got a phone call this week, but the purpose in that you're already seeing. It's not like of course, we hope and pray that it continues to be revealed in the future. And he's going to continue writing your story and unveiling your testimony. But the purpose in the pain is you're already starting to see it and you're already sharing about it. So I just want to affirm that you are 100% where the Lord has you, for a very specific and distinct reason. And he is doing big things, and he already has done big things, and he's going to continue to do big things, especially as you do take the season of rest. Like you're going to be filled up, and you're going to be able to pour out so much greater than you could have ever asked, thought, or imagined.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. I have a retreat on the books that
yes, tell us about it.
And this was way before all of this came in. I was like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to write a book and have a retreat and speak and, filling my schedule, right? As we do. And God said, oh, that's cute. Sit down. But the retreat I had planned for the end of February, very small, just like 10 ladies in a cabin. And it's a renewal retreat. And the goal is to just be with other women who get it, who are tired, who need to step away for a couple days. And a lot of it is just that time of rest and worship and encouragement. There's a little bit of it that will be me sharing how to go through that process of getting everything out of your head and sort it and prioritize it and find it a home on your calendar and things like that. But that's like the practical little piece over here, but the majority is really just that rest and renewal. And as I was sorting what goes and what stays on my schedule, looking into February, at the end of February for that, I just thought, I need that as much as all the other ladies. I need that there too. That stays. As I prayed over it and I thought about it, that's something that stays. And so we've got a pretty full wait list. I'm hoping to do another one after February as well. But that is something I am still very excited to move towards.
Is your wait list still open? Like, could interested people still sign up so they can at least hear about future ones if they can't?
Yes, absolutely. I would love it. It's on my website, right there at the very front. You can join the wait list at any time. And the one in February is not booked solid yet. We do have enough on the wait list that it could be booked, but people's calendars change and things. So we'll have the one in February. And I really am hoping to make this a recurring thing to just provide that opportunity for women like us to just kind of like the retreat we went to in Gatlinburg, just get away for a couple days and be with other women who get it and recenter yourself.
I love that. Well, I'm going to put the link to the wait list in the show notes. And then in the meantime, Rachel, where can listeners find and connect with you? Or are you going radio silent? Are you getting off social media and everything too?
I'm going to scale it back, but I'm not going to go radio silent. It's one of those things. Social media, I don't love it, except I do love to be connected with people.
Yes, I know. Right? It's such a double-edged sword.
So the purpose of using it for business, I'm scaling so far back, but I want to keep up with people and I do want to share still when I want to share. So I am on Instagram.
Overflow. That's what I heard once. Post from the overflow.
Yes. So I'm on Instagram most. It's at rachel.d.baker, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But
that's okay. We'll also have that in the show notes.
But my DMs are always open. I love meeting new people and connecting with people in direct messages on Instagram. My website, racheldbaker.com. You can connect with me through there too. And again, emails for this season, not super frequent, but I do share when the new podcast episodes drop and things like that. And I've got people on my team that help out with things like that while I step back, which is nice. So
yay.
Be there.
Well, yes, definitely find and connect with her there. And Rachel, I am just so grateful to have spent some time with you here today and for your courage and vulnerability to share your story.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. The healing that you've experienced and the resilience you have developed along the way is a great reminder to all of us to continue trusting the Lord, no matter what we face. So thank you for showing up as unapologetically yourself for my listeners, for your community, and for all of us in between. You are clearly called and equipped to do really big things. And you are also called and equipped to rest. And you are going to be rewarded for your rest. I have no doubt about it. You, my friend, are created worthy. Thanks for listening and tuning in to the Created Worthy podcast. I hope that today's show resonated with you. And if it did, can you do me a huge favor and go leave a 5-star review? This helps more listeners find the show and it expands the reach of the stories and concepts that are shared here. All the links and guest information are in the show notes. And if you're on social media, come hang out with me. You can find the Created Worthy podcast on both Instagram and Facebook, or come follow along with my personal IG page, where I just share more about the real, sometimes messy life of your fellow worthy warrior. Can't wait to talk to you soon, friend. And don't forget, we are all created worthy.